All right, there we go. Get it up here where I can speak. Well, we do pretty good over there, and you know what? They do say, you know, even blind squirrel gets an acorn once in a while, right? So, I'm a classic overachiever. Thank you guys for having me today, and he was very persistent. Give this guy like a big hand. All right. Carol, she handles our recruiting right now. She's actually my baby sister. She was there day one at Panini Pete's with my dad when we opened up, and you know, he wondered why he even had kids. You know, after that week, he took such a beating. You know, it was, Dad, run the food. Dad, I need ice. Dad, I need this. And I remember I did an early article in Mobile magazine, and one of the funniest moments, I remember telling my dad after a couple months, I said, "You are doing a phenomenal job, Dad. I think I'm going to double your salary." I said, I can't eat 2 sandwiches a day. But it's good to be here again. Pete Blohme, aka Panini Pete. Been in the restaurant business since I was 14, fell in love with it, and kind of fell into it as a career. You know, it was a fun job. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of school. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, a couple things that have happened since the last time I spoke with you guys. A lot more gray hair. I'm going to be 61 this year, so I can talk about my high blood pressure, my AFib. We can have all of our little ailment chats. You know, it's fun. I'm in the club now. You know, but I also wrote a book called Spatula Success. Really cool, and it's kind of the art of digging deep, and it's got some recipes in it, but it's really just a memoir about a lot of things, because some of the things I'm going to talk about, the opportunities that have been given to me and been presented to me that I've been able to take advantage of are just phenomenal for me. I can't believe I've been able to do things that just those pinch you moments. You know, we're in like standing on the deck of an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Arabian Sea and watching jets take off that are still going out supporting troops in Afghanistan. This is back in 2010, and feeding these troops and going, how in the hell did I get here? You know. And it was 1,000 little things, 1,000 little decisions. And you know, I wrote this book about digging deep. You know, it's called Spatula Success. I learned at the CIA. I went to the original CIA, Culinary Institute of America, not the other CIA. And you know, one of the things they learned is in our business, trash cans are lined with gold. You know, waste will kill you. And I teach my guys all the time about, you know, using that spatula, using that tool, this thing that's single purpose is to eliminate a measure of waste. And it can do just that. And a lot of times you'll look at a little pan of, say, aioli and go, you know, they throw it in the sink and they're out. And, you know, when you scrape it, you realize we only need 17 grams per panini of that aioli on that turkey sandwich over there that hopefully all of you had had at least once. But, you know, you realize that when you get in there, you go, hey, man, I can get 3 more paninis out of there. And we use 5 of those a day, so that's 15 a day times 7 days a week times 365 days a year. You realize that a lot of these undervalued moments and these morsels and these things that seem insignificant over time create abundance. And I talked to my crew about that. One year for Christmas, I gave them all a spatula and a little bit of cash wrapped around it. And I talked to them about that. And of course it was, you know, direct to let's use these more in the restaurant, but it was also a metaphor for life. And I said, life's the same way. You know, if you put more into your relationships or into your health or into your career and just showing up on time and doing the right thing and, you know, old school work ethic. I don't need to tell you guys, it's not what it used to be, right? Heck no. But, you know, it really makes a difference. And some of the things I've been able to achieve are just through that, digging really deep, looking for opportunities. You know, I was a corporate chef for Baumhauer's not that long ago. So I ended up, you know, I worked on cruise ships. I was the chef at the University of Alabama, a lot of big places, little places. I came up, you know, washing dishes in steakhouses and cooking pizzas. And my sister, my older sister, not Cheryl that works with me, she's married to Bob. So when he retired from the Dolphins and decided he wanted to do the restaurant business, he called me. And I came and helped him out, helped him open his first one in Northport, Alabama. And, you know, he was talking about me moving up there and coming to work for him. I had no desire. I was in Fort Lauderdale at the time. It was the late 80s, like Miami Vice down there, with women and sinning. And I'm going to need some extra prayers from you guys to talk about the 80s. But, you know, he coached me up to Alabama and I fell in love with it. But I always wanted to open my own restaurant. And I finally got a chance to do it. And it was tough. Miss Bessie, anybody remember Bessie Montgomery that built the French Quarter? Amazing lady, miss her, God rest her soul. She gave me a shot in there, sight unseen, told me, oh, you're gonna be great. Anybody had a check for rent, they were in. You had a spot, you're gonna make wooden nickels. And she said, oh, nobody's making wooden nickels anymore, you're gonna do great. So I got my shot in there, but my opportunity was, how do I use this opportunity to really make it work? My wife's a school teacher. She just retired from full-time, and we had to try to make it on her salary. It was tough. We went in there and it started off doing lunch and making things great and doing things from scratch. House roasted meat, fresh cut fries and chips and homemade mozzarella and dressing, spreads, aiolis, everything from scratch. I was in there early every morning. And one thing I decided one day, I was like, man, I wonder if I could do a little breakfast in here. They call it the Fairhope French Quarter, so I decided to mess around with beignets. I said, I'm here early. If I can get this registered just to make a little bit of noise before lunchtime, that'll help. So it was digging deep and trying to get the most out of it. And initially, I gave away a lot of beignets. Miss Bessie used to ask me, you selling a lot of those? I said, well, not so many as I'm giving away, but they're catching on. And I'd go out and sprinkle the merchants. I remember Kiefer from Page and Pallet. When I first was looking back there, he said, listen, buddy, don't let him tell you that's a great spot. He said, that's a hole in the middle of Fairhope. It's been 5 restaurants, nothing's made it. He says, I'm not telling you don't do it, but you need to have the support of the community. You need to have the support of the merchants if you want to make it back there. And I really took that to heart. So I started with giving them beignets. And I'd send the servers out at the end of breakfast with a little batch, and they'd run around, and you hit this quadrant, you hit this corner, and we'll rotate it around. And eventually it got so bad, they'd go out ready to head left, and somebody'd be hanging out of their door. Hey, over here, I haven't gotten any in 4 or 5 days. I'd be like, listen, I sell them every day. You can come on down and, spend some money. But that was one of the first moments of just really digging deep to try to get the most. And they're great. Now we sell tons of them. They're fantastic. I have a beignet mix that we sell on the market. All that money goes to a foundation that I started. And just things lead. You talked about the Food Network and Guy Fieri, life-changing experience. I call Guy a performance-enhancing drug. He should be a banned substance in the restaurant business, right? He's like steroids. And speaking of the Food Network, though, Sunday, 7 o'clock this Sunday, great food truck race. Somebody's going to be on this episode, as a judge with Tyler Florence. We filmed in Mobile this past Mardi Gras, so put that on your calendar, 7 o'clock this Sunday. But so Guy came, we got targeted to be on this show, 2008, opened in 2006, 2008 we got on the show, life-changing moment. And I looked at that also as how can I, Guy won a show called The Next Food Network Star, like American Idol, like a lot of these shows. So, and I was looking at what he did, and I said, how can I try to do the same thing on my level, going, I'm getting this little window of opportunity, how can I maximize that? So it was about bringing value, it was about showing up, it was about doing good things. And we ended up doing so much. And early on, it was tough, with my wife. I can remember about my 15th month in the business, I got left to go to work one morning, and I walked outside, and my 1997 Isuzu Rodeo wasn't in the driveway. And I'm like, what the hell, where's my car? So it's not really the kind of model people steal, And I had it for about 4 or 5 years, bought it, nice used car, talked to the wife, and have you been making the payments? Yeah, kind of, sure, sort of. And I said, and bottom line is the repo man got it. I went through all that, the terrible credit and all that. I said, you know what, that's all right, we're going to get through this. I need a ride to work though, so we'll figure this out. And, the financiers, those are the kind of things people get divorced over. And I said, that's not even, I know we're not making the money we need to make, and I'm starting this new business, so hey, at least you held on to it this long. You were able to keep them at bay. So we always want to grab these opportunities. Guy's show just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Every chance I had to do something with him, he'd call, because we hit it off great. He'd say, we're doing the Atlantic City Food and Wine. You got to come, man, move, you got to come. And then it would be click, hey, we're doing the best of episode, you got to come, click. And I would have to figure it out. And I have to meet with her and go, this is going to cost us $500 or whatever. I got to fly out there. I'll have a hotel room, we'll have food, we'll have drinks. Anywhere we go eat, they usually comp them. They see Guy coming, we got you. But you need to have a few $50 or $100 bills to throw to the staff, because I don't want him reaching his pockets, because if he's got to carry us the whole time, you're not gonna get invited back if you can't bring some value and have a little something. So we had a lot of meetings and talked about it, how we're gonna get through here, and looking at the bigger picture of what this can do for us and who we can meet, and how, for me, it was inspiration. Being around people that are where you would love to go, or at least you just admire what they're doing and the good works, is so important, you know, to have that motivation, to have that good mentoring and influence. Guy does so much. People get misguided by his look, because he's, you know, I've heard him described as, you know, he has the style of a strip club owner, you know, back then. He just, you know, just crazy, you know, clothes and crazy dude, but he's an amazing guy that's fiercely loyal to his friends, fiercely loyal to his business partners, and he's so loyal to the communities, you know, being a restaurant guy. So that show helped change our life. So since then, I did a road show with him where we traveled and did 30 live shows all over the country in a bus, like wannabe rock stars, and it was so crazy. We're on the road every night in a different town, and you know, I got so many good jokes. Like, is it like weird, like a rock, you know, is there like groupies and stuff? I said, you wouldn't believe how many 45-year-old overweight women are coming up. You know, it was wild. But that's a whole nother book. And, you know, just a lot of really good stuff that came of it. And by showing up and being there and doing the best I could, when we did a tour, you know, after every show, we'd go out and do autographs and, you know, be out there by the merch and stuff. And there were other minions. I wasn't the only, you know, court jester. He had a few of us in there. But I would always stand back and make sure all the equipment got put away. We had all the tools we needed for the next show. I had checklists. I worked with the tour managers. And then I'd eventually show up out there. And he watches that stuff. And he's like, man, this is a guy I need around me. So I really looked out for that. And it's just grown and grown and grown. So now, like I said, I've done 25 shows, I think, on the Food Network with him. I don't know how many live events I've done. I just filmed another show with Tyler Florence. I was looking on the Food Network website yesterday, on their Instagram and their Facebook. I was all over it for this new show, and I'm like, this is so cool. I can't believe I'm on, like, the Facebook is putting my face on their page, the Food Network is, and it's incredible. And again, it's when he's like, how did it happen? It's like, it was a whole lot of little things.
With those free beignets.
It is. It's the free beignets, man. They didn't hurt, you know. And that led into two of the most significant things I've done. The Mess Lords is a group of celebrity chefs. We go out and cook for the troops. We're lords of the mess hall. And Guy started this several years ago. You know, they bring out celebrities and they bring out, you know, rock stars and all this stuff. He said, why don't they bring out chefs? So they get us to go out there, and at first the Navy doesn't have any clue of what we're going to do. We're going to stand up here in the group, and I'm going to make a salad dressing and go, there you go, and you're all going to go, yay. You know, no, it's not a performance. We get in the galleys and we take over, and we show them some new tricks, some new techniques based on using the equipment and the products that they have. But we also just bring a lot of love. We play music in the galleys. The food service officers kind of relax a little bit. We get crazy. The people that I travel with, Gorilla, Stretch, Johnny Bravo, you know, Bobby the Butcher, all these crazy chefs that they're all big personalities. So we call it our Forkful of Freedom tour, and we go out to bases all over the world and just bring motivation, bring joy, bring some morale boost, and bring them some good food. And we talk about football, we talk about grandma, we talk about the 4th of July, we talk about things that they don't, you know, they're signed off. You're sitting on a ship in the middle of nowhere and you go, what are they doing on Friday night? They're working. You know, we may be going to the movies, or hopefully you're going to Sunset Point or something, but, you know, they're working. So great thing that has done. And again, it just kind of started with nothing, and we showed up and just kicked butt. And then it grew into this huge program, and Navy Entertainment and Navy MWR developed a lot of respect for us because they have bands coming out, and they're a little bit, sometimes they're a little prima donnas and they want this, and we just go in, we're in there at 0300 going, all right, we got to get breakfast ready. And then we're doing lunch. I was in Romania where we were at a base, and we were already set up to cook lunch, dinner, and breakfast the next day. And right as we're finishing dinner, the MWR director's like, what are you guys going to do for mid-rats? You going to do something for mid-rats? And you've all been in the military, you know, midnight rations, mid-rats. So, well, of course we're going to feed those guys. So it turned into an all-nighter with about a 2-hour nap and a 30-hour stretch. And it was crazy. And I remember, I'll never forget it. It was about 9 years ago. I was sitting back at the hotel in Bucharest by myself having a bourbon. It was my birthday, and I was shot. And I was like, is this the greatest thing ever? I'm drinking, I'm in Romania, having a bourbon on my birthday. I just fed 250 guys for 30. It was a small base called the Veselou in the middle of nowhere out there, a defense missile base. I don't know what they had going on there, but it was an old Russian air base. But things like that, aircraft carriers and bases all over the world. It's taken us to Spain and Italy and Djibouti and Bahrain and Rhoda, Sigonella, Japan, all these different places, and what a blessing that's been. Guy's got another show called Guy's Grocery Games. Any of you all ever seen that? Where he makes these chefs run around in a grocery store, and you got to shop and you got to cook, and there's these challenges and there's these whammies, and well, I've done a bunch of those, and through that, I won 20 grand, and I funded a foundation. Me and a buddy of mine that I went to culinary school with named Robert Kavikoff, we have a foundation called the PR Foundation. And we do special things for special people. We work with veterans, we work with adults with developmental disabilities. We also work with no-kill animal shelters. He lives in Chicago. Wherever we do events, the money always stays in that market. So John Stewart, we were talking about, earlier over here. Anybody know Johnny? I call him the Sheriff, John Stewart. He's my little right-hand man. So Johnny's he's a child of Fairhope, although he's about 32, 33 now. Special ed young man that kind of came hanging around like a stray dog when we opened, and we fed him and took care of him. His dad, George, was a double amputee, Vietnam vet. His mother was stricken with more severe disabilities than he was, but we have really taken care of him, and it's really started at prom one night. When he was in high school, he had a little girlfriend. He said, hey, I want to have prom dinner here at Panini Pete's. I said, well, John, we're not open at night. Well, I know. We want dinner. I said, yeah, what am I thinking? We're going to fix you a grand dinner. You're going to be all dressed up. What are you going to have? We want spaghetti. It's like, spaghetti's a little messy. You're going to be in a tub. Well, we love spaghetti. Well, spaghetti it is. So we do a full spaghetti dinner. I get a buddy that has a 41 Pontiac chromed out to drive him to prom, and we do all this stuff. And I said, chefs can do stuff like this for special people. Donate. You don't have to have money. Donate, your time, donate some food. And that was the spark that grew the PR Foundation. And since then, we've done, I don't know how many events, and we've given away all kinds of money. Everything from modified bikes to, children with disabilities, to wheelchairs for veterans, to flags and quilts of valor, and, stuff for, with the Humane Society. And what's that?
Don't cut the house.
Yeah, so John also, he lived over here on Morphe in a pretty rough house. When I first met his dad, about 2-3 years into the relationship, Johnny was hanging around every day. One day he was working with us, and I was just telling this story. We gave him some tips and money because he actually helped out that day. He was helping the girls out. And I said, what are you going to do with that money? He said, well, my dad needs some beer and he needs some cigarettes. And I gave it to my dad, and I said, all right. And I said, you got to keep some. But about the third day, George calls. He said, this is George Stewart. I said, how you doing? He says, I want to meet the man my son's working for. I said, I can't wait to meet you either, George. Why don't you come on over, let me buy you lunch. He said, well, I ain't got no damn legs. I said, okay, I'll come and see you. And I went over there, and it took me to a whole nother level of caring and really bringing this kid into our world, because it was rough. The house was in bad shape, falling apart. George, you could tell, he was pretty rough on him, verbally abusive and stuff, and his mom was already in rough shape. And I remember looking over at a picture of Miss Brenda all dressed up, and George in his military stuff, like a wedding picture or something close to it, and I said, wow, look at that. Look at Miss Brenda, looks so good. He said, well, heck, I wouldn't have married her. Nobody told me she was retarded. And I just, man, my heart sunk. And that changed the whole game. So we got very involved in his life. Well, his dad passed away. His mom became a really bad hoarder. I went to his house, and we had their church and some other people. We went in and redid a bathroom, redid a bedroom, redid all kinds of things, redid the kitchen. It hadn't been in the kitchen in 3 years. There was still food in the fridge. It was right here in Fairhope. This shiny little Disneyland of a community. This was going on right there. So his mom since passed away. He's pretty independent. He's high functioning, but he needs some support. So one of his, I think it was one of his former teachers came to me and said, man, we got to do something. His health was bad. Her health was really bad. The house was full of mold, falling apart, walls falling down. So we decided we're going to build him a new house. So I said, the PR Foundation's here. We're going to do this. And I partnered up with Baldwin County Home Builders. I started getting donations. I started rallying the troops and getting people going. And then I had contractors saying, I'll do the flooring. And another guy says, I'll help with windows. I'll help with the roof. And I said, I need somebody to coordinate it. And I called Eric from the city. He said, call these guys over to Baldwin County Home Builders. And they stepped up, said, we have a charitable foundation. We've been looking for a good project. Let us work together. You be the hood ornament. You make the noise. You raise the money. We'll do the work. I was like, perfect. You know, we can do this. So literally, we built them a brand new house. We leveled that thing, built them a brand new house. So many people in Fairhope donated money. You know, we had all kinds of fundraisers. I brought in celebrity chefs from all over the country. We had dinners at Sunset Point, selling the beignet mix, doing all this stuff. And the community came together, and you know, we had a big billboard out there with everybody's names on it. We did a ribbon cutting. We had the Fairhope band there, and Johnny was so funny. I remember the day we went over there when they brought the wrecking ball, and I said I was worried he was going to be really tore up about that house coming down. And I said, what do you think about this? He says, I wish we just had some dynamite. I could just blow it up. And, you know, he's got this little switch where, you know, he just, you know, there's certain things that just don't affect him like you'd think it would affect. But what a blessing that has been. And that also was like, how the heck did that happen? How did it, you know, I'm just a cook, you know, but with intent and with help and with looking for opportunities, it's amazing what you can accomplish, you know. And this can be, you know, I don't think it could happen as easily as it did anywhere but Fairhope, for me, period. You know, to have a restaurant to go, okay, to work hard, to go broke, to eventually go, hey, I'm gonna open another restaurant. And then, hey, I'm gonna build a small restaurant company. And now we have 6 properties. You know, we took over Ed's, like you said, we bought Ed's in 2017 when Ed and Barb retired. Took us 2 years to get that brand going again. It was in pretty rough shape. They had a really good run and then kind of a nosedive. But then 2 years of really growth. We went 2 years to turn it around, 2 years of really rock, and then we had a terrible fire. So we had to really dig deep and figure out how to get through that. You know, we ended up removing the brand. We took over the Lake Forest Yacht Club a little over a year ago. Waterfront, a great place in Daphne. We just opened a new food hall 2 weeks ago in downtown Mobile. So we have 4 brands in there, Panini Pete's, and 3 new brands, Mobtown Slice, Tacos Hermanos, and Astronaut Chicken. We got chicken that's out of this world, man. Astronaut Chicken. You remember Tang, the breakfast drink of the astronauts? So we make aioli. We make Tang aioli. We make tangaritas. We embrace the space program. We have all kinds of fun with food there. But a lot of just incredible, crazy things. And anything in life. You know, my wife's a cancer survivor. She's a breast cancer survivor. 5 years cancer-free. Hallelujah. But you talk about digging deep in dark times, you got to do it. You got to be able to count on your friends and your family and your community and your spouse and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of good things that we've done. The mess lords, we haven't gone out since COVID. We're going out this year again. I can't wait. I'm bringing in a whole new batch of young chefs. I need these guys to come and take over the organization because, man, it's hard. We fed hundreds of thousands of people, you know, over the years. You know, you go on a carrier to feed 2,500 people, your dogs are barking after that. You know, it's a lot of hard work. And like, why am I doing this? It's crazy, but it's been a fun ride. And, you know, even getting to come and just speak to groups is just a blast, and getting to share some of the stories and getting to know people. So I'd love to answer any questions you guys got. That's kind of, you know, the nutshell story.
Did you ever play basketball?
I did. Of course I did. Not well, but I played, you know, high school. Yeah, you know, I love sports growing up. My dad, if it was anything other than a football, he didn't have time for it. So I had to fight to play basketball and baseball. But, you know, I started in the restaurant business very young. And I mean, have you guys ever worked in the restaurant business? You know, especially in the 70s when I was a kid and in the 80s, you know, there was a couple of distractions in there in that business. So when I discovered, you know, girls and things like that, sports were everything until they just weren't. Until there were girls and work and a little bit of money. And then I was like, you know, yeah, I'd love to play. But so I never played anything past high school. And plus I grew, I think I was 6'1" when I graduated high school. I kept growing. I'm 6'4" now. You know, my kid was a college swimmer, and he was a little bit undersized compared to me. He's 5'10". But I said, man, when you get by your junior year of college, you're going to be about 6'1", 6'2". You're going to be crushing it. He's 5'10" today. He's 28 years old. He's still 5'10". He didn't get that spurt that I got. But sports are great.
Could you give a brief overview about the wedding?
Oh, for Johnny's wedding? Oh my God. So John's married now.
Yep.
So he came across one of his old girlfriends that he had in special ed on Facebook. They rekindled, and just an amazing story. And poor Crystal, she's been through the ringer. You know, she had a family that was not very supportive and not very good. She actually has 2 children that have been adopted out, and I don't know the whole story about where they came from, but I don't think it was really good circumstances. But you know, they got together and they wanted to be together and they wanted to get married, and I was like, this is crazy. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, why shouldn't this happen? Why shouldn't they have love? So, you know, we helped coordinate that whole thing. We had a beautiful party at the, I got them a limo. It's got some pictures now at the Bay. We had a big party at the French Quarter and just threw down. Everybody had a blast. I got them a suite down at the Grand. So my wife and I went down there to kind of chaperone. So we take them down their honeymoon suite at the Grand, and my phone rings at like 11 o'clock at night. And Johnny says, well, hey, we left Crystal's pasta in the car. I said, well, you know, I think it'll be all right. Don't worry. I'm glad you remember. Well, she's kind of hungry. Okay. I said, and we're on the other side of the resort. I said, you want to meet me down there? I got to go to the valet, and, you know, you can meet me down there, or, you know, and we'll do it. He goes, or you could just bring it to the room. I said, you know, yeah, let me just bring it to the room. So we had to go deliver the pasta. And the next morning, we had a great breakfast there at brunch, and they treated her like a queen. And that was really a beautiful thing. I'll tell you the most beautiful thing, though. This year for at Christmas, they buy us a bunch of stuff every year. It's crazy. They get just the most ridiculous things you see from the dollar store and all. It's so much love, though. So last year, I told my wife, I said, you know what I want to do for Johnny and Crystal? I want to take them to Disney World. So we took them to Disney this year. Holy buckets. You talk about a crazy trip. I mean, it was an experience. I took one for the team in so many ways. These guys. But I mean, Crystal had her autograph book, the princesses. She was just in awe of meeting all the characters. John was terrified. She loved the roller coasters. Crystal was like, screaming on him. John's like, I don't know if you want to go on that one, Crystal. That one might scare you. She's like, no, I want to go. Are you sure? I said, John, sounds like you're a little nervous. Oh, no, not me. And I remember the second morning we were there, they had their Mickey Mouse waffles every morning. The second morning, I was working out. I was trying to exercise, and I said, you guys go down and get some breakfast. I'll meet you. I show up 15 minutes later. It's 8 in the morning. Crystal's got a Minnie Mouse kitchen sink ice cream sundae that she's having for breakfast, getting ready for Disney. And I was like, there you go, breakfast of champions, man. It was in a big skirt that looked like Minnie Mouse's skirt. No, she still eats her cereal out of that. But unbelievable stuff, you know.
Who was his best man?
Who was his best man? I don't know. Was I his best man? I think I was his best man.
I bet you were.
I was up there doing it. You know, I can't even speak at events with him. I could bawl my eyes out, you know. But it was really neat to see that happen because he is like a son to me, you know. And, you know, I remember when he was carrying the torch in the Special Olympics out here, and he's afraid he's going to get his head burned off. You know, he was going nuts. And I tell you what, he's a restaurant man, you know, now. He runs that thing. He's in there shagging ice and bussing tables and seating people and running deliveries. And behind you, out of the way, I said, how's the servers doing? Oh, they're driving me crazy. They're driving me crazy.
Hey, Pete, let me ask a little bit of a downer. Bob Capitella at Mary Ann's Deli is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Runs that. And I know this $15 minimum wage stuff is killing you guys. Give me an inside feel for how do you deal with that? This minimum wage stuff is just inflation. Killing you.
We charge you more for your food. In a nutshell. No, it's tough. It's tough because, you know, when it hurts, you know, because in our industry, we don't pay anybody minimum wage. You know, the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 or $7.50. Nobody makes that. You know, we pay so much higher than that. And even 15 is not outrageous. We have a lot of people that were making that or more. But what happens is the entry level kids, like I said, I started at 14 working at Pizza Hut. I was making $2.35 an hour back then. You know, these entry level kids that are unskilled, it takes them out of the mix. You know, that'd be like if the government mandated, say, if you're going to have a kid cut your lawn, you have to pay him $100. Where you're like, well, I'm not getting a kid to cut my lawn, then I need somebody that does a good job. Yeah. So those people that are out hustling, trying to get in and get started, it really puts a squeeze on them. I've got a buddy in Arizona. They were one of the first in Flagstaff. They were one of the first to mandate $15 with all these progressions. I think it goes up to 18 or 20, and that's minimum. So suddenly you have somebody, if I got somebody that's making 17 bucks an hour now, and suddenly they raised the minimum wage by $7 to 15, he thinks he's getting a $7 raise. He goes, oh, well, I was making $7 over minimum wage, so I should be making 24 now. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. But now these skilled employees that are making 17, 18 bucks an hour are just, there's a kid that walks in and they're running circles around, they're going, he's making 15? I'm worth way more. So it skews everything. Where I like to treat it, a lot of things, working with the military did a lot for me. Because I saw how these guys study for rank advancement, how they work for rank advancement. And when somebody has a certain amount of value, you need to reward that. I told my business partner, Nick, I said, we get these guys that come in as a dishwasher and they're making 12 bucks and they move up and we teach them to fry and saute and grill, and in 8 or 10 months, they're extremely valuable. Well, another restaurant knows, hey, this guy works at Sunset Point for Panini Pete, he's gonna be great, and they go throw money at him and he wants to leave. And Nick says, well, man, we taught that guy everything. He's making 12 bucks an hour. He's making 14 now. He's been here less than a year. He's learned all this stuff. But yeah, he's worth 16 to that guy because of what we've taught him. So that means he's worth that to us. So you have to find ways to get creative with your food. You have to we do bulk buying now. God bless that, we have the volume we do where we can do contracts. Well, I want to lock in 15,000 pounds of Alabama shrimp, 21.25s. They'll store it. We pull as we need it, and we can get a great price per pound. Small operators, like Bob's a good buddy of mine, Capoletta, you mentioned, we went to the CIA together. I didn't know him then. He was in a different class, but we graduated about the same time. And the smaller places, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher because the margins are small. People don't realize our business is pennies, nickels, and dimes. It's a 6% margin nationally average, 6%. And if you ain't using one of these, it ain't 6%, You got people back there chopping. They're paying 15 bucks an hour to, and they're throwing half of the lettuce in the garbage. I had a girl that's been with us for a long time at Squid Ink. She's helping out the food hall. She was making the tang aioli, and we have this Kewpie mayo we use, this Japanese mayo. And I look in the trash can, and there's 4 jugs of that in there. Each one of them had at least 2 cups of mayonnaise in it. I almost freaked out. That's where my high blood pressure comes from. It's tough, and you guys know, when. There are some bad people out there that don't pay the people what they should, but most people are making great money. The servers are some of the worst because they complain about stuff. Meanwhile, they're making a boatload of tips, and until recently, they didn't pay taxes on most of it. Nowadays, that's converted because everybody uses plastic, so most of the tips go on their check now, other than cash tips. But they used to, they'd never report their cash tips, or a very small percentage of it, So it's a tough thing for small businesses, definitely. And I don't know, independence, it's going to change. It's changing. I'm looking at, I'm going to be 61, like I said. There'll be an exit strategy coming up because we have a lot of high school kids working for us now because you have to get them younger. The workforce is dissipated. I don't know if they're all driving for Uber now or Uber Eats or DoorDash, but a big segment of the labor force has just disappeared in a lot of industries, not just ours, but especially ours. So that's tough. I talked about the other day, he's moving too.
Yeah,
he's kind of being forced out of the windmill market, so I think he's heading to Daphne. I hope he does good up there. You guys support him. Go get you a Rachel. Go get you a Reuben.
Rent's cheaper
He's
than
a good guy. Yeah, it is.
What do you, give us some coaching as consumers about tips?
It's tough. We're such a goofy tipping culture. We don't want, I'm a restaurant owner and a chef, and I'm Panini Pete, so I go somewhere and I get mediocre service, and I'm like,
mediocre too.
if I leave this guy 10%, I'm the jerk. Oh, that Panini Pete guy's a stiff. I can't believe that guy's got all these restaurants and he gave me 10% tip. But your service stunk.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's this guilt thing. And now you get all these prompts. You go up to a counter that's all automated and fast food, and they flip the thing around and says, what do you want to leave? 20, 23, 25%. You're like, what? You took my order. And it starts at 20%. It's really difficult. But that's where I think, I tend to be 15, 20% if they do an adequate job. But I tell you, if somebody does a great job, I throw down. If somebody's got a great attitude and they smile and they know the menu and they do the right thing and you don't see them over there in the corner BSing, these things in our restaurants, we're like, you need to put that away. I don't want to have somebody come in and you're behind the bar like this. Oh, I'll be right with you. Let me finish this post. So there's so many things that these young kids don't know. They're soft. They don't grow up running around like we did, beating each other up, knocking each other on the head, falling off their bike, falling off the trees. They're not tough. They grow up in front of the screen, they're not interacting with buddies, and they're thin-skinned.
In terms of the tips, if you tip on a credit card, does that go into a pool and they get distributed among all the employees? Versus putting
Typically
money
not.
down and it goes straight in the
No,
pocket?
typically not. There's laws that govern that. So
Yeah.
if you're a server, whatever tips you get, they're yours. The only thing, some of the restaurants, we usually have tip sharing. They'll have a certain percentage they give to the bartender based on their alcohol sales, and they'll have a certain percentage they'll give to the busser based on their sales. But if you're not in direct coordination with them, it's illegal. There's a bunch of restaurants that got sued that were tipping oyster shuckers or tipping dishwashers. If you try to spread that around, you get in trouble. Now, at the food hall where we're at, we don't have servers there. So we have cooks, front line, expo, and food runners. So any of the tips we get there, they get spread between the whole staff, which is great. Because typically you got cooks making, even somewhere say between 14 and 18 bucks an hour, and they're working their butt off. And it's hot and it's sweaty. It's a rough environment. And then you got servers and they're coming in at 7, 8 o'clock and they prep, and then when they're done cooking, then they got to clean everything, and the servers are gone. They show up at 10, cut a few lemons, make a few salads, they go make a couple $100 and then leave and see you. But if you take any of that money, oh Lord, if it's a slow day, they're belly aching. The cooks are going, hey, I got a break. If it's a busy day, they're like, I made the same money and did double the work. They made $200-300 and I'm walking out here. So it's a tough thing, but if you try to spread it around, they'll sick the law on you. So it is, if you're leaving a server tip, she's getting that tip. She's gonna have to tip the bar a little bit and a busser a little bit, and that's
So
it.
you don't have to leave the cash, you can get on credit card,
Yeah, they'll get it. Now, what some restaurants are doing now, we don't do it, but because of credit card fees, I know some restaurants that they would take that out of the server tip. So they made $100, they may take 3% and say, here's 97. Because we're, for years, credit cards were a small portion. Now it's like massive. I pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card fees because it's not just a fee on the business, it's a fee on the gratuity as well. And we're giving them the full amount of gratuity, so we're taking a hit on that and on the food.
What about illegals? What's the impact of illegals on restaurant food?
I mean, one thing that I've always done is been a very straight up guy. I don't pay under the table. I don't do any of that stuff. We need workers in this industry and in this country, but still, I think they, come legally, man. Just come legally, man, and pay taxes like the rest of us. There's a way to do it. I know it's not easy, but I'd rather work on, finding a way to make that easier than just wave a wand and say, come on in. And because, taxes, when they're getting paid under the table, it's hurting us. And I heard years ago, and I don't know how we're getting political here, but I heard, somebody talk about a flat tax once, say, tax everybody less, but hammer them on sales tax. Because then all the untaxed income, we get it there. So you'd rather pay less, and so everybody that's making tips or getting paid under the table, and, the drug dealers, everybody that's making money illegally, at least they'll pay more taxes there. So, but I think, there's a lot of markets where you go in the kitchens, they're all Latin workers, and they kick butt. They're not soft like a lot of the American kids are, but here it's not. The Latin workforce here is either construction or there's just not a lot here. They don't make the money here. They go to bigger cities and make a lot more money.
For those who don't know, John and Crystal go to church here, if you don't know John.
Yeah, this church has been good to them. They come Wednesday to eat. I know he does a Bible study. He has his role. His role in the church is eating and telling the kids with the Bible study, but what an amazing young man.
They get excited talking about their house.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
Tell them where it is so they can drive
So
by.
it's 306 Morphe. If you go down past, where Theater 98 is on the corner, just past there where there was like that electric junction center, and then there's a little metal building, house / stained glass person right next to it is their house. Beautiful little house. Did an amazing job. I mean, it's worth probably double what my house is up in Daphne, but he wouldn't trade with me. I tried. But he owned a lot. His grandparents bought it from him. He has a half brother. George had another son, another family that owns 25% of it. So we had to put it in a trust. I said, ultimately, this is for, he's got kids, his half brother. And I said, it's going to be your children's legacy that George left you. Because what was there was worth nothing. Now it's worth a lot because it's a neat house. So we had to put that in the trust. That's one of the toughest things that you have when you're doing things like that is you build a house for somebody and then they want to turn around and sell it. And, so we had to really do a lot of legal work on the backside, and I had to make sure his intentions were good because he didn't want to come off that deed And I was worried about that. But he said, I don't want to come off it because I don't want somebody ever to be able to take advantage of John and get him to sign something and lose his house. That would be rough. Yes.
Hey, morning, Pete. My wife and I met you a little over 2 years ago. It was the day I believe the day we closed on our house and we went over to Sunset.
Yes.
And I'm from the north, so I didn't know you or your face. My wife's from Southern Alabama, so she's like, there he is right there. So you came over and you chatted with us for a while.
You get a picture?
We discovered that day that you and I in 2010 were on the same carrier at the same time on the
Yeah.
MLS.
How cool is that?
So yeah, we talked to you about 2 years ago about that, and I saw your wall of fame in the restaurant. But we love it when any person that's not normally there comes out, whether it's a musician or in your case, I know you probably spent time on the mess decks, and I spent my time up on the O3 in the wardroom. So I didn't see that particular trip, but it's so big I didn't even know you were there.
Yeah, it's
when I was there,
pretty
5,000,
amazing.
5,000, 6,000.
It's so amazing, and thank you for your service. I tell you, man, to see how hard y'all work, and it's done a lot for us. You know, like I said, as far as looking at people's value and going, hey, here's where they're at. Essentially, he just tested up. He's an E9 or whatever it's on. It doesn't matter how long he's been here. He's at this level now. We got to pay him, or we're gonna lose him. You know, which is
Trips like
good.
that just carry because it's so monotonous out there. I can't speak to the other services, but being out at sea for, and you go, I think 45 days, we get a beer day. Like I think that year we almost had a double beer day. We almost hit 90 without a port call. But yeah, especially for the sailors down on the mess decks, they're the blue collar workers who are just on the shift workers on the clock.
They love it because typically they are doing that. You know, Toby Keith's out on the hangar deck, and they're in the
That
galley.
trip too.
And they're in the galley, so they don't get to see that. Meanwhile, us knuckleheads, we're like the Four Stooges. We go in there and just tear up the galley, and they have a blast. And we did the USS Baton. They were out floating around in the Mediterranean, getting ready to evacuate the Syrian embassy. They were on standby, and they were out for over 100 days. And we had to fly out there, and it was 3,500 cheeseburgers one day, 3,500 chicken sandwiches. Next day, everybody was going crazy. We were staying in the med bay because they had Marines, 800 Marines on board, and it was. There's a video. If you go to YouTube and hit Mess Lords Rock the USS Baton, it's the only video because we don't tape that stuff. It's not like us, but Navy had a media team there, and you see a little bit of what we do. And the best part is the last. It's a 10-minute video. The last 3 minutes when they're interviewing all the sailors and the Marines, and they're talking about what it meant to have that food. You know, it's cool. Very cool.
Is your book in Page and Palette?
It's in Page and Palette. It's available in all my restaurants. It's available on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Come and get it. It's a very easy read. Probably 1 or 2 sittings in the library there. You
Beignets
can
and a
knock it
book
out.
will do you well.
Beignets and a book. You're good. That's it. You're on your way to the top, baby. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It's getting late.
Wow.
Thank you.